What if Roman Reigns had a longer WWE Universal title run back in 2018? Welcome everybody to the BrewCrew channel. My name is Hayden Brewer and welcome to WWE What If Part 8. I know, of course, it's been a while since I did a little bit of a while since I did Part 7. Of course, if you have watched Part 7, you know, of course, I had a long length of time between Part 6 and Part 7. But I'm going to try to get back, of course, into this series and all here on the channel with this series and all that. And so yeah, if you guys haven't seen part 7 or any of my other parts as well, those videos will be down in the link in the description below. The link to those videos in the playlist to those videos will be down in the description below. So definitely go check out those videos so you guys can get caught up, and then you guys can come back to this video. And so yeah, before we get into the video, if you guys are new to the BrewCrew channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell for future upcoming videos. Do wrestling videos like this. Of course, my biggest playlist, biggest series right now I'm doing is this WWE What If series. Also do some football content as well, so definitely hope you guys will enjoy this channel if you guys are a fan of both. Now with that being said, let's go ahead and get into WWE What If Part 8, which will be the Greatest Royal Rumble to SummerSlam 2018. Now, I do want to go ahead and say, yes, of course, really going into SummerSlam with Roman Reigns having a longer reign. Of course, if you guys do not remember, mostly just wanted to remind y'all two key things. Shinsuke Nakamura is WWE Champion in this universe, winning the title back at WrestleMania against AJ Styles, and Roman Reigns also won at WrestleMania 34 against Brock Lesnar to be the Universal Champion before he won it at SummerSlam, just to give him a little bit longer reign. Now, yes, the reign does continue on to our next part, but with it being longer, definitely was kind of the right title for this part for this video. So definitely, of course, from Greatest Royal Rumble to SummerSlam 2018, it's about 5 shows I'm going to go over, but a good bit of matches on these. Again, I've said this before in these videos, I'm pretty sure really these amount of matches that these shows have, that I'm giving these shows, probably won't really happen in real life, but this is a made-up universe, so really, if it's a lot of matches, it's a lot of matches, but it could have been matches that they probably could have done. But with that being said and that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into our first show, which is the Greatest Royal Rumble in 2018, one of the first big Saudi Arabia shows that WWE did. So of course, as I do these videos and do these shows, we're going to start off with the keep matches and then move to sort of the change made-up matches that I end up making. So to start off with the keep matches, we are going to keep, of course, the Fatal 4-Way Ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship, with Seth Rollins defending against Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, and The Miz. Now the match, of course, would stay the same, and of course, Seth Rollins would also win and retain his Intercontinental Championship. The next match would, of course, be the Legends match that they did, Cena versus Triple H, with Cena picking up the win. That match, of course, would still happen. Excuse me. The Usos versus the Bludgeon Brothers. The Bludgeon Brothers, of course, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, winning the tag titles at WrestleMania. Facing the former champs, it would be the same. Bludgeon Brothers would pick up the win and still be your SmackDown Tag Team Champions. So sorry. Cedric Alexander would defend his Cruiserweight title against Kalisto. Of course, at this time, the Cruiserweight title is still relevant. Haven't really talked about it a lot because nothing really big changes really would happen in there. But yes, the WrestleMania match between him and Ali would still happen. If I didn't talk about that in the last part, it does still happen. Alexander does still go on to become the Cruiserweight champion. And of course, the main event, the big advertised match for the show, the first ever largest Royal Rumble, 50-man Royal Rumble, would mostly be the same. I really wouldn't change because there wasn't really much significance really in the match of like what happened with the winner. Everything would sort of stay the same, and yeah, Braun Strowman would actually go on to win. So let's actually go on to our change matches. The first match actually was a match that I do remember was official, which was Chris Jericho versus The Undertaker. But then that was changed to Rusev versus The Undertaker. But since, if you guys don't remember from last part, Rusev is United States Champion in this universe, this match I would 100% still seeing. But of course also because of how historic this match would be, as this would be the second time in this series that Undertaker and Chris Jericho would face, because if you guys remember, way back in, I believe it was part 1, Ending off with WrestleMania 32, one of the big matches that happened was Chris Jericho versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 32. So I would love to see this match come around. I would probably say Undertaker would still win against Chris Jericho, but the match would still be good and be great. Another new match, Rusev, of course, I said before, is the United States Champion. He would have his first big defense against Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton, the former champion. He would actually retain in this triple threat match, but I do want to kind of say, spoiler a little bit, he does have a shorter reign, mostly because I did still want to fit in Jeff Hardy's reign as U.S. Champion. So probably a spoiler ahead, but I just wanted to say, but we'll get to that later. The match I think would really be amazing and all that, and Rusev would come out on top and reclaim his U.S. Championship. The next match I have is AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. This time I did say in the previous part the roles would be flipped. AJ would be the heel, Shinsuke would be the face champion, and this rivalry would kind of still continue. I would kind of still have this end in a sort of disqualification of sorts. Maybe Shinsuke still wins or something, but any sort of way that still continues the rivalry. Next, I have Roman Reigns defending his Universal Championship for the first time against Bobby Lashley. Now, yes, Bobby Lashley would still return to the WWE in 2018 and would instantly go after the Universal Championship, winning in probably a gauntlet match or some sort of number one contendership match on the road to Greatest Royal Rumble, instantly getting this sort of dream match feud between Lashley and Roman. They would have an amazing brawl, but Roman would come out on top and retain his Universal title. And one more match, of course, this would probably happen before the Roman and Lashley match, is the Bar would face the team of Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. If you guys don't remember, of course, I switched up the Braun Strowman tag match with the Bar at WrestleMania. I had Bray be the mystery tag team partner, and Bray and Braun go on to win the Raw tag team titles. They would defend against the Bar and reclaim their titles. So that, of course, would happen. Match would probably be okay. But anyway, that, of course, would be Greatest Royal Rumble 2018. Next is a Backlash 2018, which, of course, is dubbed by a lot of fans, especially me, as probably one of the worst wrestling pay-per-views. But let's try to see if I can make it a little bit better. Mostly, of course, with only 3 key matches, as these matches would still happen. Carmella versus Charlotte Flair would still happen for the SmackDown Women's title, with, of course, Carmella cashing in on Charlotte and becoming the new SmackDown Women's Champion like in real life. So if you guys don't remember, I actually ended up having Charlotte not losing to Asuka as much as I wanted Asuka to win, but it was just with Carmella still as Women's Money in the Bank winner, it just kind of got confusing and all that. So Charlotte would retain still at WrestleMania, and of course would still lose it to Carmella, making this match here at Backlash. Another key match would of course be Seth Rollins versus The Miz. It's one of the best opening matches, and it was the only good match on the show in real life. So this match would still happen. Seth Rollins would still retain and still be champion, and Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss for the Raw Women's title would also still happen. But moving on, of course, to our new matches, which would go on to be Rusev versus Jeff Hardy for the United States title. Now, of course, we know that Jeff Hardy won the U.S. title on a random Raw, but I would have him probably win it here on SmackDown, or not SmackDown, on Backlash, or maybe on a SmackDown show that would lead up to this rivalry between him and Rusev. But like I said before, he would have a shorter reign as United States Champion, but everybody would still remember the WrestleMania moment. Probably wouldn't be liked by fans to have him have a short reign, but it is what it is. Jeff Hardy would still in 2018 become United States Champion, and he would win against Rusev here at Backlash. Now, I know this might end up getting confusing to a lot, but for some reason I ended up doing Braun Strowman versus Kevin Owens in a rivalry match, even though even though Braun Strowman is one half of the Raw Tag Team Champions, I didn't put the Raw Tag Team titles on the line. I don't even think I put the SmackDown Tag titles on the line. Why? I don't know. I think I was just making up stuff, but this match would happen and Braun would probably win. I don't know. I don't know what was going on. Next match, of course, will be the WWE title match between Shinsuke and AJ, which would be no disqualification, but instead of it ending in a random double low blow that would have them incapacitated for 10, I would actually have Shinsuke Nakamura win cleanly with a no disqualification, but would still lead up to one more final battle or sorts, or maybe still some sort of 10 count instead of it being a double low blow. Maybe for some reason they just they go through a table or some sort of big spot that lets them both still be down, and the ref does a 10 count and says like, hey, they're not getting up. And then that probably leads into, spoiler, their Money in the Bank last man standing match. So maybe that's something like that could happen. But this match, of course, would happen, kind of keep actually, but of course switch the roles. Shinsuke's champion, and yeah. Another match I kind of also made and be interesting, Daniel Bryan, of course, making his return. I think instead of him being coupled up with Big Cass for his first rivalry back, I think it would be cool for him to go back into a rivalry with Randy Orton. So that's, of course, who I have him first facing off against at Backlash 2018. I would have him come up with the win, but maybe start some sort of rivalry or just kind of have a rekindled rivalry with Randy to lead up to Backlash or something like that. So Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton would happen, and Daniel Bryan would pull out the win. The main event would kind of be a big one, as Roman Reigns would have a really big, tough defense in his second pay-per-view defense, as he would defend the title in a fatal four-way against Samoa Joe, Sami Zayn, and Bobby Lashley. Lashley trying to get a second chance, Samoa Joe now looking to become a world champion, and Sami Zayn now, of course, being part of Monday Night Raw, trying to also fiddle his way into becoming a world champion somehow as well. The Fatal 4-Way probably would be really good. I mean, these are four amazing wrestlers, and I really think they would probably tear the house down in an amazing Fatal 4-Way. Each one would be close, especially the challengers would be close to seeing if we had a new champion, but Roman Reigns would prevail in a Fatal 4-Way match and retain his Universal Championship, and would go on to still be your Universal Champion as we get closer and closer to SummerSlam. Next up is Money in the Bank 2018, which is definitely one of the weaker Money in the Bank shows, Money in the Bank pay-per-view shows, but of course we definitely will try to do some changes, definitely some big changes really with it, but of course we got some key matches to go through first, so let's get to those. First being the Club, Anderson and Gallows versus the Bludgeon Brothers for the SmackDown Tag Team titles, what's of course still happen, Bludgeon Brothers would retain. Carmella versus Asuka would happen, where I believe I would actually have Carmella win this one with the help of a returning James Ellsworth, but it would lead to an Extreme Rules match where I believe Extreme Rules would be the place for Asuka. I don't know. Let me know in the comments, would you, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm looking at my notes and all that, I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, I really don't know. Maybe I would actually have it here. Maybe I would have Asuka win here, and then them have another match at Extreme Rules. Because I got something in store for SummerSlam, which we'll get into that. But let me know in the comments later on in the video when we get there. Let me know in the comments below what y'all think should happen with this. Nia Jax versus Ronda Rousey would still happen. Rousey instantly getting herself a title shot. Jax, of course, the match would go on, but of course, go to our next keep match real quick, as the women's Money in the Bank ladder match would be a keep, as Alexa Bliss would win and go on to cash in and become the Raw Women's Champion. So kind of a combination of two keep matches there. And also Seth Rollins versus Elias for the Intercontinental Championship would also be a keep match as well. So next, of course, is our new change matches. Starting off with like our world title matches, I would actually have Roman Reigns defend against Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn probably would win in a shocking triple threat match, defeating both Samoa Joe and Bobby Lashley, having a shocking one-on-one match. The match would probably be pretty good. Sami Zayn a couple times would be close to winning the title, but Roman Reigns would prevail, and retain his Universal Championship. Our next match, of course, is our next World Championship match, as Shinsuke Nakamura would defend the WWE title against AJ Styles in a last man standing match, where finally ending this rivalry, Nakamura would defeat AJ Styles, as he would be the last man standing in that rivalry and continue his reign as WWE Champion. Next, I have Bobby Lashley going one-on-one with Kevin Owens in sort of a rivalry match for Bobby Lashley. Bobby, though, would actually still get his second chance at it. Maybe this is just sort of a roadblock for him to get to that chance. So this match, just kind of a random match I just kind of made up that would happen. Probably would happen or not. But next, I would have a rematch between Rusev and Jeff Hardy for the United States Championship, as Rusev would actually lose this match. But of course, he would have something else coming up, which we'll get to later on the next show. But Jeff Hardy would win and retain the United States Championship. Now we actually go on next to our final and actually big match, probably would be the main event, is the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Now I do want to go ahead and say that the winner would not change, but we'll get to that later on. But the lineup would change a little bit. Yes, still in the match, like in real life, would be Bobby Roode, The Miz, Samoa Joe, Kofi Kingston, Finn Balor, and Braun Strowman. But I would add 2 new ones, being Why is he barking? Oh my god, no. I'm back. I'm so sorry about that if you heard my dog barking in the background. Anyway, so as I was saying, the 2 new people that I would actually have in this match would be Y2J, Chris Jericho, and Daniel Bryan to make the match a little bit more interesting and give them a shot as well. But Braun Strowman would still go on to be the Mr. Money in the Bank. Now, I think if you've caught on, I will kind of talk more about this, of the confusion that I was in and why I totally forgot when I was writing this stuff. Yes, I know Braun Strowman is Raw Tag Team Champion, and now he's Mr. Money in the Bank, and it's just, I don't know. It's just all crazy and all that. I don't know what I was doing or what. But to end off the night and to end off this part with this show, Braun Strowman would still win Mr. Money in the Bank, but I also kind of, not really a spoiler, but sort of, he would still fail his cash-in, sort of, but would still cash in with Braun. But we'll get to that, of course, later on in mostly the next part. But yeah, there's Money in the Bank 2018. Next show that we have is Extreme Rules 2018. Now this one kind of gets a little bit crazier as well. But let's of course start off with the key matches for this one. So for the key matches, first is going to be Asuka versus Carmella. Of course, I did say in the beginning, I don't know where I would have this, but I'm going to kind of lean towards Asuka won the title back at Money in the Bank, sets up this sort of rematch between her and Carmella. Because again, I have something up for the women for her women's championship at SummerSlam, which we'll get to that later on towards the end of the video with our final show. But all in all, this match would still happen, this time with Asuka as the champion and Carmella as the challenger. Asuka would retain in this one. Another key match would be the Iron Man match between Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental Championship. Dolph Ziggler, like in real life, would still win the Intercontinental title on a Monday Night Raw, and him and Seth Rollins would have their rivalry, and of course would face against each other in an Iron Man match, where of course Dolph Ziggler would go on to win, with a little bit of help from Drew McIntyre, who would make his main roster return as well. Another key match, of course, would be Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss, and a no disqualifications match for, of course, the Raw Women's Championship, with Alexa Bliss winning and still being the Raw Women's Champion. And of course, yes, setting up Ronda Rousey being involved and setting up a big clash between them at SummerSlam. And the final key match would, of course, be the reuniting Team Hell No of Kane and Daniel Bryan versus the Bludgeon Brothers. I did kind of think maybe we could try to do something with them as tag champs, but I remembered about the rivalry that Daniel Bryan would have with The Miz, the rekindled rivalry, and all that with The Miz for SummerSlam. So mostly just kept it as a key match. Bludgeon Brothers would still go on to win and retain the SmackDown tag titles. Now, the key matches, however, really is where it kind of gets confusing, mostly rereading it and just wondering what in the world was I actually writing. So first I want to start off with these 2 matches. First, Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt would defend the Raw Tag Team titles versus the Revival. I would actually have the Revival winning the Raw Tag Team titles here and becoming the new Raw Tag Team champions. But also I have as a random match for some reason is Braun Strowman versus Finn Balor in a steel cage match, kind of having a rivalry between the two, because of course Finn Balor was in the Money in the Bank ladder match and mostly just wanted Strowman to have sort of a rivalry with him being Mr. Money in the Bank, which will lead them to having a match at SummerSlam, which we'll get to that when we get to SummerSlam. I think I would have Braun Strowman winning this, and then maybe if the tag match was next, Finn Balor would get involved or something, distracting Braun and costing Bray and Braun the titles or something. I don't know, but I do want to say, spoiler, I do the same freaking thing on SummerSlam, so we'll get to that. So I don't know why in the world I did this. I think I was just blanking out about the Raw tag titles or something. So I don't know. If it's confusing to you, I I have nothing, know what to say. The next match, Chris Jericho will go one-on-one with Baron Corbin, or at the time that he was actually called Constable Corbin, if you remember the whole thing with Kurt Angle as general manager, Stephanie not being happy with him, and appoints Baron Corbin as the Constable of Monday Night Raw, where he becomes Constable Corbin. So this match could lead to something like that, with Chris Jericho wanting a shot at the Universal title and SummerSlam coming up. So Kurt Angle kind of makes this match, and Constable Corbin doesn't want the match to happen. But mostly it all comes down to, really, for this one-on-one match to be one-on-one Baron Corbin, Chris Jericho. If Jericho wins, Jericho can go on to face whoever the Universal Champion will be at SummerSlam. Match would go back and forth. Corbin almost cost Jericho the win and his chance at a title shot, but Chris Jericho would come out with the win and get his future shot at the Universal title potentially at SummerSlam. But of course, we'll have to see who that will be, and we'll get to that in a minute. So that's, of course, that match. Next is the WWE Championship match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev, kind of like in real life, with AJ Styles defending the title against Rusev in the real life Extreme Rules. But Rusev, off of a United States Championship run, would actually go on to face Shinsuke Nakamura here at Extreme Rules for the WWE Championship. One-on-one, Rusev would be close to becoming WWE Champion finally for the first time, but Nakamura would prevail and win. But this would not be the last time Rusev would have some sort of chance at the WWE title. We'll get to that when we get to SummerSlam. The main event, however, would be the second meeting of Bobby Lashley and Roman Reigns, this time in sort of an Extreme Rules type Street Fighter something simulation. With it would be an all-out war between the two, probably much better than their match at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Bobby Lashley again would be cloaked multiple times, but sadly again he would fall short, and Roman Reigns would win and still be your Universal Champion, continue his reign, and he potentially will go on to face Chris Jericho at SummerSlam in a big-time matchup between two big names in WWE in this universe. So there is, of course, Extreme Rules 2018. Now, to end off today's video with the final show is SummerSlam 2018. To end off part 8 is, of course, this big-time SummerSlam show. A good amount of keep matches, though, for this, but a lot of changes. But let's get to the keep matches first. First, of course, being Alexa Bliss versus Ronda Rousey for the Raw Women's Championship. That, of course, would be a keep, and Ronda Rousey, yes, in this universe, would still go on to become the Raw Women's Champion. The next keep match would be Daniel Bryan versus The Miz, and honestly, as much as I do kind of want to change it to Bryan winning, I actually do like the concept of The Miz winning, but of course probably have a different outcome going into Hell in a Cell, which of course that will be talked about in our next part in part 9. But anyway, this match would be the same, outcome would be the same, Miz would get the win at SummerSlam, but the rivalry wouldn't end here, it would still continue. The Bludgeon Brothers would defend the SmackDown Tag Titles versus the New Day, where the New Day would fall short here at SummerSlam, but like in real life, it would be probably the next SmackDown or next two SmackDowns. They would battle the Bludgeon Brothers again in a no disqualifications match, where Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, against all odds against the dominant Bludgeon Brothers, would come out on top as the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. So that still would happen, but here at SummerSlam, Bludgeon Brothers would come out and retain. And the final keep match would, of course, be the match that started off the show, Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental Championship. Drew McIntyre in the corner of Dolph Ziggler, and a returning Dean Ambrose, sort of returning. Now, of course, we haven't really seen Dean since WrestleMania, so maybe this could be some sort of return after having a hiatus since his WrestleMania match against Samoa Joe. So we would probably see him return, and he would be in the corner of Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins, like in real life, would win and become Intercontinental Champion again, defeating Dolph Ziggler. Now let's go on to the change matches, which again, I want to kind of start off with saying that Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt would have sort of a rematch against the Revival. This probably would actually be before Braun Strowman's one-on-one match, so maybe again he would probably get caused, probably too focused on his match with Finn Balor, because then probably either the next match or next few matches or so, he would go one-on-one with the Demon King Finn Balor, and he would actually lose this match. So, kind of, again, a weird scenario that I, for some reason, put Braun Strowman in as Mr. Money in the Bank, but I don't know. Again, I don't know what was going on in my head when I was writing this stuff, so I really don't know. But let's actually move on to the other matches. Sort of a keep match in this one, but has a little bit of a change. is the women's SmackDown Women's Championship triple threat match. Tongue twister there. But instead of it being Carmella, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte, you take out Carmella and put Asuka in as the SmackDown Women's Champion. Now, this is why I was kind of confused of where I wanted Asuka to win the title, which there was at Money in the Bank or Extreme Rules, was because of this match. Because even though, yes, this is sort of a change match, this is sort of a keep match as well, just with Asuka. And this is actually their first triple threat match, as yes, spoiler a little bit, I think it will happen in next part or the part after. TLC would still have them have a triple threat TLC match, so this would kind of be the first, but this would not be the last meeting. But this matchup would of course come down to the wire, and yes, as like in real life, Becky probably has this armor on Asuka. Charlotte Flair comes out of nowhere with the natural selection and goes on to become the women's champion, and yes, at the end is when Becky Lynch finally snaps and has her heel turn and officially becomes the man at this point and sets up a big match at Hell in a Cell in their big rivalry for the rest of the year, which of course we'll get into that in the next part, in part 9. But of course that match would happen and a new champion would be crowned. Another triple threat match would actually happen that I actually would make would be Shinsuke Nakamura defending the WWE title against Rusev again and Samoa Joe. And this is kind of where a turn kind of happens for Shinsuke's reign. Probably would think his reign could have been a little bit longer, but he has a tough competition against Rusev and Samoa Joe. And like in real life SummerSlam, Samoa Joe had a big opportunity to become WWE Champion against AJ at SummerSlam 2018 in real life, where some people probably say he could have won. So with me having that thought and definitely being like, maybe this could be big for this what if universe. So in this triple threat match, Rusev would sadly fall short, and it would be a Samoa Joe coming out with the win and becoming your new WWE Champion in a sort of shocking upset, because probably nobody actually thought he would win, but he comes out with the win and becomes the new WWE Champion, kind of making history, because if you remember from the previous SummerSlam in 2017, I think that was probably a part of part 6, I think, where he actually won his first singles title, the Intercontinental title, at SummerSlam 2017. Literally a year later, he goes on to finally win the WWE World title, or win a world title. So, excuse me, so finally becoming a world champion. Our next match is for the United States Championship, Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles. I was kind of confused of how I wanted to do this because I didn't put AJ or Jeff on Extreme Rules, but I would actually see them having a sort of United States Championship match of sort. But I actually forgot to put this match on Extreme Rules. So if you see AJ Styles actually as the United States Champion on the pop-up picture that I will show, is because I will actually be giving AJ Styles the US title, probably with him winning on like a random SmackDown. Not in the way that Shinsuke Nakamura won in real life, but kind of cleanly, maybe on a random SmackDown, maybe on the SmackDown after Extreme Rules. It would still, of course, set up this rivalry between them two for a SummerSlam dream match a little bit, but also would set up the sort of side rivalry while being involved as well with Randy Orton, with Jeff Hardy with Randy Orton. But the match would happen, of course, at SummerSlam. Great back and forth match, probably going to be a SummerSlam classic, but AJ Styles will retain the United States title. Next match, of course, is probably a match that people wanted to happen at SummerSlam 2018, whether it was a non-title match or for the Universal title. That is Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley at SummerSlam, which could have been a match that could have happened, but of course they went with Roman Reigns. But this, I believe, could have been a big grudge match, probably could have led to some sort of rivalry or one-time off match or something. I don't know, but of course, finally getting Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, the dream match at SummerSlam. Honestly, don't know who I would have won this match. Let me know in the comments who you think could have won this match. I'm actually going to go with Bobby Lashley, as of course he's already had a great 2018 up to this point, and it would have been a really big win for him in his return, is to get a win over Brock Lesnar. So I would probably have that. Have that happen in this match. But let me know in the comments down below who you guys would have thought would win and whatever. But I have Bobby Lashley winning this potentially. The main event, that would actually not be the main event. The main event would actually be an interesting main event match between Chris Jericho and Roman Reigns, which would have an interesting build, as Chris Jericho hasn't had a Universal title shot since around last year, before SummerSlam of last year. So now he gets a big time shot. He's mostly changed from a heel back to a babyface sort of course, and all that. I would think it would be an amazing back and forth match, interesting match between the two. Jericho multiple occasions looked to become the new champion, but Roman Reigns countless times throughout his reign he's had in this part already. He pulls out, prevails, and comes out with the win and retains his Universal title. But he does end off with respect with Chris Jericho and Jericho's respect for Roman. He just sadly could not get the job done and fell short, but Roman would remain your champion. Sort of would be teased of a Braun Strowman cash-in, but that wouldn't happen yet, as of course we will talk about that in the next part. But of course, that will end off SummerSlam 2018. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, of course I know I said it was 5 shows, but I did kind of say it would probably be a little bit of a longer video, but definitely, hopefully, it was worth the watch for y'all. Of course, I know I'm sorry if it was confusing on these final 2 shows with the whole Braun Strowman thing, and with him being a Raw Tag Team Champion and Mr. Money in the Bank. It was just a lot. Of course, this was, again, a while back when, not even, probably almost a year or so ago when I wrote this stuff down. But again, sorry about the confusion. But, of course, a lot more stuff to go over and to talk about in our next part, Part 9. Getting closer and closer to finishing up this series. But yeah, that, of course, is WWE What If Part 8. If you guys, of course, want to get caught up again and watch the other parts, the playlist to those videos, the link to the playlist to those videos will be down in the description below. So definitely go check out those videos. Go check out the previous video and go check out all the other videos if you guys want to get caught up as well with everything that I was going through, because really it's just a lot to really talk about in one video if I want to recap. So just go check out the videos yourselves. The link, again, it will be in the description below. Also in the description, of course, are the links to my socials, to the YouTube's Instagram, and, of course, to my X account, as I try to post some stuff on X as well. So definitely go follow those 2 links to do. Again, will be down in the description below. And so, yeah, so with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys did enjoy this video, hit that like button. Again, if you guys are new, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell for future upcoming videos on the channel, and, of course, for this series as well. And with that being said as well, ladies and gentlemen, and out of the way, hope you guys have a blessed, wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.